Has anybody seen Jim Shelburne? Hello? In these chapters, and you've read enough to know, how easy it would be to spend 2 or 3 weeks just in one chapter going over the what ifs and the maybes and some of the other things that draw our mind to that stuff. But we're not at this point. Zach?
Reading in the interbiblical between Malachi and Matthew. Get ready, because that's exactly where the goats and all of the other the visions that we're going to talk about, or they're going to talk about. And one of the things about prophecy is that this was given to somebody like Daniel. We think of history and we're looking backward, aren't we? It happened and now it's history, past. They didn't have that privilege in 500 BC like we do in 2025 AD. And we're leading up to a whole lot of things in chapter 9 that will take us right into the middle of some of the most horrific things in the history of Israel. In 66 to 73 AD, most of us don't even get into that very much, but we will. And now I want to read something to you. And just listen, there's no one following along. We're in chapter 8 on page 38 of our workbook. This is from Malachi to Matthew. The close of the Old Testament canon left Israel in 2 great divisions. The mass of the nation were dispersed throughout the Persian Empire more as colonists than captives. A remnant, chiefly of the tribe of Judah, was Zerubbabel, a prince of the day. The Persian rule continued about 100 years after the close of the Old Testament canon. And it seems to have been mild and tolerant, allowing to the high priest, along with his religious functions, a measure of civil power. But under the overlordship of the governor of Syria, the sources of the history of the Jewish remnant during the Persian period was purely legendary when Josephus wrote. Josephus was a Jew, general in the army, got captured by the Romans and wrote, and if you haven't read something of history, Josephus is a great buy. Josephus wrote, during this period, the rival worship of Samaria, John chapter 4, 19 through 20, was established. Palestine suffered much from the constant wars between Persia and Egypt. In 333 BC, Syria fell under the power of the third of the world empires. We've already talked about 1, 2, 3, 4. The Greco-Macedonian Empire of Alexander the Great and so on. That conqueror, as Josephus relates, was induced to treat the Jews with much favor. But upon the breaking up of his empire, he only lived to be 33 years of age or so, under the power of Syria, but later under Egypt, as ruled by the Ptolemaic kings, and the Septuagint translation. During the period of 320 to 198 BC, great numbers of Jews were established in Egypt, and there the Septuagint translation of the Old Testament, which is in Hebrew, of course, was established in 285. In BC 198, Judea was conquered by Antiochus the Great and annexed to Syria. At this time, the division of the land into the 5 provinces familiar to readers of the Gospels, Galilee, Samaria, Judea, often collectively called Judea, Trachonitis, and Perea, were made. The Jews at first were permitted to live under their own laws, under the high priest and a council. About BC 180, the land became the dowry of Cleopatra. We've heard that name. A Syrian princess married to Ptolemy Philometor, king of Egypt. But on the death of Cleopatra, was reclaimed by Antiochus Epiphanes, the little horn of Daniel 8, verse 9, after a bloody battle. In 170 BC, Antiochus, after repeated interferences with the temple and priesthood, plundered Jerusalem, profaned the temple, enslaved great numbers of inhabitants. These are our Israelite friends. Plundered Jerusalem, and Antiochus offered a sow. What was prohibited from the Jews? Any kind of of that which doesn't clothe and hoof and so on, and Ham was especially there. So he slaughtered a sow in great desecration to their religion and their law, the Mosaic dispensation. Offered a sow upon the great altar and erected an altar to Jupiter. This is the desolation of Daniel 8, type of the final abomination of desolation of Matthew 24, verse 15. The temple worship was forbidden. The people will come to us now. In BC 165, Judas regained possession of Jerusalem, purified and rededicated the temple, an event celebrated in the Jewish feast of the dedication. December 25th comes to play in that one, by the way. The struggle